It's Regina, and this week we continue with criticism of Heidegger. I begin with Borgmann, who argues that to see that the force of nature can be encountered analogously in many other places, we must develop the general notions of focal things and practices. We will have to acknowledge their scattered and inconspicuous character, but unlike Heidegger's nostalgic accounts of simple things, we must fully accept that the technological environment heightens the radiance of focal things and learn that focal things require a practice to prosper within. For Borgmann, the Latin meaning of focus, that is, domestic hearth, is the best guide to developing the general notions of what he calls focal things and practices. Pictured here is the hearth at Wingspread, the Johnson home designed and built by Frank Lloyd Wright. It is the perfect metaphor for focus, as it is at the center of the house and has fireplaces and a seating area at each end. This side is in the dining room and features a cast iron pot that was used for cooking. Currently, we think of focus as making something more central, clear, or articulate. Borgmann argues that the technical senses of focus have converged with the original one, and he encourages us to see things as focal, though they are inconspicuous, homely, and dispersed. Borgmann also reminds us that a pivotal discovery for Heidegger was to see the work of art as the focus and origin of the world's meaning. But he asks how it is we can recover orientation in the distracted era of technology when great works of art have lost their focus and power. To get to the crux of the matter, Borgmann takes us through Heidegger's fourfold of earth, sky, mortals, and divinities. A simple jug made of clay containing wine, poured, especially as a libation, includes the fourfold. 2 points of Heidegger's become important in this consideration. First, we must recognize that the central emptiness of modern technology provides an opening with which to see a focal concern, and that having a focal concern be threatened by technology sharpens our view of the central emptiness of technology. Second, things that gather the fourfold are humble, and reform of technology issuing from focal things will discover sources of strength that nourish principled and confident beginnings, which will neither rival nor deny technology. Going beyond Heidegger, Borgmann says that the turn to things must be an affirmation rather than escape from technology. We must move in the direction of a practice of focal things, even the social and political situation of focal things. That is, focal things can prosper in human practices only. So says Borgmann. Reflective care of the good life, according to Borgmann, is now more the domain of practical people than philosophers. These practitioners guard focal things in their depth and integrity and view them in context to prevent them becoming ambiguous. So, for instance, we have driving, which is a past achievement in both learning to drive and earning the car, which led to current enjoyment and convenience. So we have a divided self. Versus running. Current running effort and enjoyment of the effort are one. You are mindful of your body, which is intimate with the world. We also have fast food versus cooking. So food as a commodity, table replaced by industry and many distractions, versus a farm to table dinner with friends, where a union of the primal and the cosmic. Technology makes better possible. Technology has given us high-tech clothing, shoes, blenders, food processors, self-cleaning ovens, and dishwashers to make focals more enjoyable, yet we fail to pursue them. We act out what has been nurtured in our daily practices as they have been shaped by the norms of our time. Practices, therefore, according to Borgmann, If we are to challenge the rule of technology, we can do so only through the practice of engagement. Starting a practice helps guard a focal concern. Practice helps us accomplish things unattainable in the fits and starts of individual decisions and acts. Without the support of myth, community, and sacred ritual, as in pre-technological times, but with the distractions of modern life and the pervasiveness and consistency of technology's patterns, how can one begin a practice? The more strongly we sense and the more clearly we understand the coherence and the character of technology, the more evident it becomes to us that technology must be countered by an equally patterned and social commitment, that is, by a practice. A focal practice is required to counter technology in its pattern pervasiveness and to guard focal things in their depth and integrity. Contrary to the shared public practices of old, ours are humble and scattered. Borgmann argues that the heart of the reform of technology is the making of technological universe hospitable to focal things. Getting to this point requires the cultivation of complex practices, as it is only when we experience things greater and other than ourselves that we will be moved to judge and change technology. We accomplish this by accepting and even celebrating the current plurality in focal concerns. In other words, the good life is one of engagement, and engagement is variously realized by various people. We can delight in our choice and the choices of others. The significance of any of these acts is in the force and extent to which they gather and illuminate the tangible world and our appropriation of it. So it doesn't matter if I cook and you draw or run or play the flute. Focal practices are at ease with the natural sciences. This means they welcome scientific investigation as a way to enhance the practice. This can be in terms of new technologies, which makes things easier, or in knowledge about how things work. For example, salt is added to boiling water to flavor foods like pasta, but also to increase the boiling point so the pasta cooks better. Wealth and the good life require a reform of technology, that is, a reform of the paradigm, a recognition and restraint of the paradigm, and count focal things and practices as the ends that technology should serve. The adoption of focal concerns leads to a removal of technological clutter, a simplification of the context that surrounds and supports the focal area, an extension of the sphere of engagement. But one must accept technological advancements that will provide disburdenment from chores, like lawn fertilization, that take one away from world citizenship. Focal concern ought to be a center of orientation from which one can tell what matters in the world and what merely clutters it up. And we have Dreyfus and Spinoza, who also ask the question of how we can relate ourselves to technology in a way that not only resists its devastation, but also gives it a positive role in our lives. So they go back to the essence of technology and assert that Heidegger says it's human nature to be world disclosers. And Heidegger also considered his discovery of the ontological difference, the difference between the understanding of being and the beings that can show up given an understanding of being, his single great contribution to Western thought. Heidegger's 6 epochs in the understanding of being, and this is a review, are the phusis, or springing forth on their own, poiesis, nurtured and helped to come forth, things as finished works, creatures produced by a creator God, the subject-object organization, and the technological understanding of being. Related to this, Heidegger posited that the danger of technology was that man was dominating everything and exploiting all beings for his own satisfaction. Man is subject in control, and the objectification of everything is the problem. As described by Borgmann, this view of Heidegger's can be seen in the move from hearth to cook stove to furnace. Over the years, Heidegger recognized that objects cannot resist the advance of technology, and came to the conclusion that technology's goal is the ever more flexible and efficient ordering of resources simply for the sake of ordering. Borgmann also sees the end to objects and distinguishes modern hard technology from postmodern soft technology. Borgmann recognizes our products have moved from sophisticated goods to information. Borgmann concludes that the object disappears precisely to the extent that the subject gains total control. In other words, Heidegger and Borgmann both see information replacing objects. The internet encourages humans to be fluid and temporary in a multitude of identities and group memberships. For Heidegger, this can lead to a situation in which the standing reserve consumes desiring subjects and fixed identities. When things thing, so when a jug pours wine, they bring together earth, sky, mortals, and divinity. Furthermore, he believes the earth of such practices must remain hidden in order to ground mattering. By sky, he means those things considered appropriate to the situation, engaging conversation instead of brawling or brooding. The sense that a situation needs us to be granted special attunement to work is Heidegger's conception of the divinities. Mortals are humans who understand their identities are not fixed, and they must assume identity required to be in attunement with practice. Things thing even when we do not give them our full attention, so there are situations we regularly encounter and are socialized to respond to. Things thing with different modes of revealing. But what does any of this have to do with the question at hand? Namely, how can we relate ourselves to technology in a positive way while resisting its devastation of our essence as world disclosers? Technology's greatest danger, per Heidegger, is its ability to disaggregate our identities to a point at which we can no longer function as world disclosers. Therefore, it's important that we maintain the pre-technological ability to engage in background skills, like knowing how to behave appropriately at table, so that we can freely move between multiple identities in multiple worlds. Heidegger and Borgmann agree that acquiring vocal skills and the ability to move fluidly from one world to another leads to mortals having identities, which are more than arbitrary desiring subjects and unlikely to be the adaptability of a resource. Borgmann goes further, however, than the interlacing of communities and toward a community of communities, into which all humanity would embrace one overarching understanding of being. Heidegger holds to the idea that the focal occasion must determine which community concerns are relevant, and not the reverse, for if there's a single understanding of being, even those things that come into their own in the dominant cultural style will be inhibited by things. Look forward to seeing you